Hello and welcome to The Pig Edge, Teagasc's podcast with me, Amy Quinn. Our podcast series covers the latest news, information and advice to keep Irish pig farmers up to date with the industry. In this episode, we talk to the Specialised pig advisor, McCutcheon, to discuss the newly released Teagasc National Pig Herd Performance Report, which outlines the key performance indicators and their trends for 2019. I first asked her to tell us a little bit about the eProfit monitor system for pig recording and how it can be a useful management tool for pig farms.
The eProfit monitor, or the EPM as we often call it, is a very useful pig recording program that farmers use to see how their pig farm is performing over time. Most farmers will submit their input data on a quarterly basis or every 13 weeks. And this allows them to look at their sow performance, their feed performance and growth performance, and also to look at their costs of production to see whether their business is profitable or not. It also allows them, with their Teagasc advisor, to identify the main areas to focus on to help improve the performance on the farm.
And Ger, you've just pulled together the figures for the 2019 year. Would you be able to give us an overview of the herds involved?
Yeah, of course I can. Around this time each year, I compile all of the figures from all of the farms that submit their data to the Teagasc EPM. This is a great way to monitor the national herd performance. And in 2019, we had 94 farms on the EPM recording system. Now, effectively, every farm's details are treated as confidential, but when we compile them, we just get a national herd performance report. The average herd size in the records for 2019 was 831 sows. And with 94 herds in there, we have over 78,000 sows in the database. And this is about 52% of the national herd. Just interestingly there, in 2018, we had slightly over 79,000 sows, and in 2017, we had 78,000 sows. The range in the herd size on the system is from anything less than a herd with 100 sows to a herd with over 2,500 sows. So when we compile the annual figures, we do all the figures on a weighted basis to eliminate any bias towards the larger herds. So effectively, every sow's performance is treated equally in the system.
So if we concentrate in the area of sow performance, what are the key performance indicators and how did these change in 2019?
Yeah, on sow performance, the one key indicator that we look at each year is the number of pigs produced per sow per year. And the number of pigs produced per sow per year is the total number of pigs born on a farm minus all of the mortalities divided by the average herd size or the number of sows on the farm over a yearly period. Now, if the period is for a shorter period than a year, we adjust the calculation to annualize it. So the main factors that will contribute to the number of pigs per sow per year are the number of pigs that are born alive per litter, the number of litters that the sow has each year, and the level of mortality or deaths that occur as piglets, as weaners, or as finishers on the farm during that time period. And in 2019, it's the first year that we have exceeded 14 pigs born alive. We had 14.12 pigs born alive in 2019. The number of litters per sow per year dropped from 2.34 in 2018 to 2.28 in 2019. And then from a mortality point of view, the number of percentage rather of piglet mortality rose slightly from 11.1 to 11.3. The weaner mortality remained largely the same as 2018, and the finisher mortality rose a little bit to 2.67% in 2019 versus 2.43% in 2018. So The number of pigs produced per sow per year in 2019 for the national herd is 26.8 pigs per sow. It's down slightly from 2018's figures because the number of litters per sow per year was 2.34 in 2018, and we dropped to 2.28 in 2019. So while our born alive was higher, the number of litters was lower, and that brought our pigs down by 0.1 per sow per year.
And why do you think that was down, Ger?
I suppose the number of litters per sow can be affected by many factors. There were one or two issues with feed last year that may have affected it, and very, very subtle things. To drop from 2.34 to 2.28, there can be very subtle things. There was one or two farms had issues with some AI as well, but the biggest issue appeared to be some feed issues that may have been linked to mycotoxins.
And if we were to look then at the top 25% and the top 10% of farms in terms of pigs per sow per year, what are we seeing there?
Yep. Well, we've said that the average number of pigs per sow per year was 26.8. The top 25% of herds achieved 28.9, or 2.1 more pigs per sow per year, and the top 10% achieved 30.2 pigs per sow per year. Now, the born alive on the top 25% was 14.81 versus 14.12 on the average herds. And the born alive on the top 10% was 14.85, so slightly higher than the 14.81 in the top 25%. The level of mortality, though, is a lot lower on the top 25% of herds, and they achieved 2.88% lower mortality than the average herds throughout the piglet, weaner, and finisher sections. And the top 10% achieved a 4.2% lower mortality than the average herds. So, the level of disease or the level of health issues that are on the top 10% of herds appears to be lower, and their levels of mortality appear to be a lot lower. Our management of health on those farms seems to be better.
And so how did the performance of the growing pig go then in 2019, Ger?
The growing pig generally is the pig that we look at that is taken from the farrowing house at weaning and is 7 kilos at weaning, and it then goes, let's say, is grown to the end of the finishing stage. So in 2019, the average slaughter weight, live weight, was 113.5 kilos, or the dead weight of that pig was 86.7 kilos, which is slightly higher, or half a kilo higher than the dead weight of the pigs in 2018. The kill out was 76.4 in 2019, and slightly lower than the 2018 figure of 76.5%. The average daily gain, which is a very accurate figure, because you're taking the live weight at sale, which is a definite figure, and while some people may assume all farms don't measure or weigh their pigs at weaning, so the weight at weaning is assumed to be 7 kilos on a good number of farms, but you're eliminating any other estimations in that calculation. The average daily gain from weaning to sale was 724 grams per day in 2019, up from 717 grams in 2018. The feed conversion over that period of time was 2.44 in 2019, 2.44 in 2019 versus 2.43 in 2018. So slightly up in feed conversion.
And if we break that down then into weaners and finishers, what did we see here?
Yes, we do have a breakdown for the weaner and finisher section. The weaner growth rate was 481 grams per day in 2019, down slightly from 494 grams in 2018. And the feed conversion rose to 1.84, up from 1.77 in 2018. The transfer weight from the weaner section to the finisher section was down to 37.9 kilos from 38.6 kilos. And the average daily gain in the finisher section then rose from 885 grams in 2018 to 904 grams in 2019. The feed conversion improved from 2.72 in 2018 to 2.68 in 2019. So there is an improvement in the finisher section, but a little bit of a drop in the weaner section in 2019.
For feed conversion weaning to sale, what are we seeing in terms of the top 25 and the top 10% of farms?
Yes, the top 25% of farms sold their pigs at 113 kilos live weight, or 86.4 kilos dead weight, which is only 0.3 of a kilo below the average herds. The average daily gain in that top 25% of herds was 736 grams per day, while the average herds achieved 724 grams. So there's a 12-gram difference there. But the big figure there is the feed conversion in the top 25% of herds was 2.28 versus 2.44 in the average. So there's a major saving in feed cost in those farms. On the top 10% of farms, interestingly, those farms sold their pigs much lighter at 109.4 kilos live weight, or 83.5 kilos dead weight. The daily gain in the top 10% of farms was 770 grams per day more, and the feed conversion was 2.22. So they have a better feed conversion of 0.22 from weaning to sale, which is quite substantial. But they sold their pigs at a lighter weight. And I'm always wary of the top 10% of herds that it's a small number of farms. It's 10 farms out of the 94 farms. So the top 25% is probably a much better herd size to gauge everything against.
You touched on feed costs there, Ger, and we know feed is a major cost in pig production. Can you tell us what the feed cost is on the average in the top 25% of farms in 2019?
Feed cost, as I spoke about, the better feed conversion in the top 25% of herds was 2.28 versus 2.44 in the average herds. That means that the top 25% used over 17 kilos less feed to rear pigs up to much the same weight, a half kilo less in live weight and 0.3 of a kilo less in dead weight. So they saved, if we were to use the average finisher feed cost of 272 euros per ton, they saved €4.80 per pig. Now they're selling a slightly lighter pig, which works out to be about 50 cents. So their overall saving is €4.30, or close on 5 cents per kilo dead weight, which is quite substantial in terms of the production cost.
What other production costs are dealt with, and are there any major increases in 2019?
Yes, in the EPM, we cover all of the production costs. Now, some farms may not have certain items like contract finishing or house rental, but we make allowance so that we try to capture all of the costs that are associated with pig production on all of the farms we deal with. The main list of items would be the healthcare, the heat, power and light, the AI cost, transport, manure, and labour and management would be a substantial cost. All of the costs in 2019 remain largely the same as 2018. The labour management cost went up 1 cent in 2019, which might indicate more companies being set up on farms and perhaps more of an allocation of the on-farm labour that's actually been paid now, whereas before it may not have been paid and registered or accounted for. So the overall non-feed costs, excluding the building costs and building and depreciation costs, worked out to be 44.9 cents per kilo. And then the building and depreciation costs worked out to be 5.7 cent per kilo. Now, I know there's a lot of figures, Amy, in what I'm giving you here, but all of these costs are well worth looking at for any individual farmer, because they can then start to see, well, okay, am I in the right area, or am I overspending in certain areas?
How long have we records compiled, and what's the trend in the pigs produced per sow per year?
At this stage, we have over 20 years records for the national herd. And it's interesting when we look at the figures, and if we go back to the year 2000, the output of pigs per sow per year was 21.6 pigs per sow in the year 2000. In the year 2010, we were at 23.9 pigs per sow per year. In 2015, we were at 24.8 pigs per sow, and here we are in 2019, dropped slightly from the 2018 figure of 26.9 to 26.8 pigs per sow. But I suppose the other figure that's worth looking at when you look at these figures is the actual born alive. And in the year 2000, we were below 11 pigs per sow. 2003 was the first year we went over the 11 pigs born alive per litre to 11.01. Then in 2010, we achieved 12.01. And then in 2016, the first time we exceeded the 13 at 13.15. And 2019, as I said earlier, is the first year we've exceeded the 14 pigs per litre born alive. So in 2019, we had 14.12 pigs born alive per litre.
There's an overall figure of pig meat per sow and the feed used per sow plus the progeny. What can we learn from these figures in 2019, and how have these changed over the years?
This is a very good figure to look at over the years, just to see the expansion and the development of the pig sector. In the year 2000, the kilos of pig meat produced per sow was 1,471 kilos. And it took 5.39 tons of feed to achieve that. So that's a feed conversion of 3.66, i.e. that it takes 3.66 tons of feed to produce 1 ton of pig meat. In 2013, we talked a lot about achieving this 2-ton sow, i.e. achieving 2 tons of pig meat per sow per year. And in 2013, that's the first year we achieved it, and we achieved 2,031 kilos of pig meat. We used 7.36 tons of feed to achieve that, which is a feed conversion of 3.62. And then if we take the 2019 figure, and even though we were down on the number of pigs per sow per year, because the live weight and dead weight of the pigs increased slightly above the 2018 figure, the kilos of pig meat per sow increased very slightly as well. So we were up to 2,324 kilos of pig meat per sow per year in 2019. It took 8.31 tons of feed to achieve this, which is a feed conversion of 3.58. So you can see over the years, the kilos of feed slowly but surely is getting smaller. And the very efficient units are probably closer to 3.4 kilos of feed per kilo of pig meat produced.
Ger, are farmers able to benchmark their figures against the average and the top performing herds?
Teagasc EPM, we have a benchmark report, so all farmers can benchmark their figures against the top 25 and the top 10% of herds on the major KPIs, key performance indicators that they would look at. And I suppose I think it's a very good exercise to do maybe once a year, to look at the sow performance, to look at the growth and feed performance for every farm, and then also to look at your production costs and see whether you're overspending in certain areas or not, and see how profitable your business may be by benchmarking your performance against the average and the top performers within the country. We're also keen, I suppose, to say that while we have 52% of the national herd on the eProfit monitor system, I think it would, we shouldn't say that we exclude anyone. Every pig farmer out there should consider using the eProfit monitor as a way of looking at their performance, analysing their performance, and seeing if they can improve that performance.
And how can they get set up on the system, Ger?
The easiest way is to contact their local Teagasc pig advisor, and then it's a question of compiling the input data. A lot of farms that don't use the EPM system have their own on-farm recording systems, and it may just require maybe pulling the data from those systems and putting it into a data input sheet that we can use for the EPM. So the data is probably already there. The farmers may not be using the system because it's just too much work, they feel, to duplicate the records. The main advantage of the system, though, is they can see how their units are performing against the top performers within the country, and make sure that they are competitive within the national herd as well.
Just to finish up, Ger, we've discussed a lot of numbers here today. How can farmers view the 2019 report?
Yes, any farmer can access the Teagasc website, and it will be there. The 2019 report and all of the figures I've discussed here are in that report, and a commentary and analysis of those figures is also included in that booklet. Most farmers will probably receive a copy of the booklet in the post, and most farmers will also receive an infographic of those KPI, key performance indicator figures, and they can look at their performance and compare those figures with their own records. But the other way, obviously, is to contact their Teagasc advisor, and we would gladly forward a copy of the figures to them.
Very good. Thanks very much, Ger. That's it for this episode of The Pig Edge, and thanks to Ger for joining me on the show. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so you never miss a show, and for more farming information go to teagasc.ie. Until next time, I'm Amy Quinn. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back in our next episode with more updates, pig farming news and advice.